Okay. Um, so, the topic of this video is Chinese culture for teachers or for any other person who's coming from the West, from Australia or the United States or Canada, and you're going to be living and working in China. Um, so what are some of the cultural differences that you might want to be aware of? Well, um, the first thing is that I have to say many of my videos have been quite positive, and uh, they essentially they talk about the good things. Well, not only the good things. Hopefully, they don't. You need to be careful. I do know. I think one thing that my one impression that I hope my videos have given people thus far, and that is that one needs to be careful about knowing the market and knowing your worth, so that you don't take something that is below. Um, you don't take a salary for 8,000 when you should get 12, because they will do that a lot. And that is, I guess you could say, if they're able to get that sort of deal from you, they will. So, but on the other hand, I don't think my videos, in terms of talking about the culture, have well, they really haven't. They probably haven't given you any impression of Chinese culture, or not too much. And so, what does that mean, Chinese culture? Well, first of all, a lot of these people who talk about culture and the idea of history and blah, 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 that's not always so useful, because so-called Chinese culture itself can change quite rapidly, and it has. It has changed in the last 50 years, going forward, backward. Well, I won't say forward, backward, going this way and that way in different directions. Okay, and I am, for example, referring to the ability to operate, for example, a private enterprise. This would have gotten you jailed in right up until 1976, when Mao died. Okay, there was a very clear and distinct benchmark and milestone as to when the Cultural Revolution ended, and it ended with Mao's death. Okay, you would have been put in jail for starting a business back then. Now there's a business everywhere. It's all about business, private enterprise. Imagine that. There are literally millions of Chinese businesses. Okay, private enterprise, freedom of contract. I see. I want to give you this product or this service. Let's negotiate a price and reach a deal. All right, and that's right. Freedom of contract, at least within the United States Constitution, is what guarantees your right to engage in free enterprise and do business of any type, of any scale, etc. Okay, the freedom of contract, right? It's in the Constitution. And there's tons of case law describing what that means. How much freedom of contract do you have? Well, we can create federal legislation which says that, all right, you can't employ children in your store or your factory. You can't put a bunch of children on your factory assembly line, right? Thanks to the Roosevelts, and the political forces with them, we made those changes as time went on. So there's limits on freedom of contract, right? Well, at any rate, um, I don't like sort of a willy-nilly idea of so-called culture. It's not that practical. Now, but I will say that, for example, if you look at lying and deception, uh, what can you say about that? Well, right now, okay, and I'm not talking about maybe 1973 China, but right now, okay, and actually, I'm also not speaking about maybe 1991 China. I came to China when I was in first time I came to China was I was in college. It was in 1991, uh, and so things change. But right now, there is far more deception and lying and deceit in China at all levels of society than there is in the United States. So that's a relative difference that you need to be aware of. Okay? And I'm not saying you need to be paranoid, but you really do need to be kind of careful. You'll never have Chinese people strong arm you, right? Like, give me your money, or you're walking through a neighborhood and someone punches you or holds a gun out, give me your this. The strong arm tactics almost never occur in China, as far as I know. I've never. I mean, really, it's you feel your physical safety is pretty good. Um, Maybe you're not safe from negligence. You're maybe not safe from negligent products. No, you're not. Your food safety isn't great. You have to watch what you eat. I spend more money. I go to shops that have foreign products. I eat at higher level restaurants, even though end up spending more money. Okay. Um, Now, so what is it with this deception? How does that show up? As an English teacher, you will find managers who are regularly uh, kind of deceiving you, giving you a little information, not enough, and maybe there'll be other people within that particular school that are will be working in concert with management to uh, kind of join hands and manipulating you. It's essentially trying to manipulate you into doing this or doing that. Um, and that I there are no English teachers or people who have worked in China who will contradict that. Okay, there's no one out there in their right mind who will contradict that. And they won't they neither will they dispute the fact that it is more that phenomenon is more prevalent in China than it is in the United States. Now, tied to that are other behaviors, for example, not keeping promises. This is a real problem, not keeping promises. I'll give you an example. I'll testify. This isn't what some. I remember I was working for an adult school in China, and in addition to, they got me to pay them some money for a fucking work visa to process the work visa. I shouldn't have done it, but I did it. Whatever. Okay. Um, and that wasn't the problem. The problem was after the fact, there were some additional fees and some additional charges they tried to lay on me after I left. Okay. And I was already in Shenzhen, and all of a sudden I wasn't getting my paycheck. I wasn't getting the money deposited in the account. Now, this particular school, it was an adult school. I'll tell you the name of it. It's called United Institute of English in Beijing. Again, United Institute of English. I'd stay away from them. Okay? I would definitely stay away from them. As soon as I was gone, as soon as I was in a different place, they tried to hold back 6,500 renminbi from me. That's over 1,000 US dollars. That's a lot of money to me. Okay? And they made up a bunch of bullshit. And then you try to call, you get a hold of a manager. Oh, well, I'll pass the information on. It was deception. They didn't. And so I went for a month, 2 months, 3 months. Finally, I called this person, who was a guy from Hong Kong, okay, whose standards were a little bit more up to par. Because essentially, by refusing to pay me my end of my salary, they said that, well, you still owe some money on your visa charges for your visa. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, no, they pay for your visa. A lot of people will say, oh, no, they'll pay for you. Yes, a lot of them will, but not always. Not always. So it was my agreement with them that, okay, I was going to pay them a certain amount for doing this visa. Well, the long and the short of it was they failed to pay me the rest of my money after I had moved down to Shenzhen. This was 4 years ago. It was a long time ago. I mean, it was a fucking long time ago. But at any rate, and finally, I got them. They sent me a piece of paper. I had to just grab them kicking and screaming. And they didn't give all of it to me. They only gave part of it. They saw that, they were holding all the cards at that point because they've got the money. I'm far away. And they use their leverage to essentially just steal from me. Okay? And they will do that with you too. Not every school, not every time. This was a smaller adult school. It was three. They had three branches. Okay, three branches with this school. One particular owner, and they had about three or four sub managers. Okay, and these sub managers would say to me, "Oh, I passed the information on," but I don't believe that they had, especially given other information that contradicted what they said. Clearly, really, justice delayed is justice denied, and they always love to make you wait. Many of these schools, right? So you'll deal with that, especially with the smaller schools. Okay, the smaller schools are much more. There's much more bigger problem with the smaller schools doing this. Schools like Webb International English, Metin, EF, Wall Street, I really much prefer those. Okay, along the lines of you don't have to worry as much about that. Sometimes you do a little. You do a little sometimes, but generally it's such a big machine that it's like a bureaucracy that really it's kind of there's no you don't have to worry about it that as much, and you don't usually have to worry about getting paid. Okay, which is the most important thing. So, um, let's see. I've got some notes here. Um, just a sec. What do we have here? Well, at any rate, where else does this show up? Well, I'm going to do a second one on this issue because it's important that you do know about it and you do think about it and understand that you don't want to. Oh, here's a question. Okay. You will almost inevitably need to work for about your first month without getting paid. Okay? Because in the market, all the Chinese employers sort of, that's always part of one of the terms of the deal, meaning that you start work for a month and then you get paid. Then you work another month and then you get paid, right? So you're always extending, whenever you go to a new job, you're always extending about a month of credit to them. That first month, you always just, there's something, you've got post traumatic stress disorder. Oh man, you think, oh man, here it comes again. They're going to fucking screw me or they're going to twist it around. A simple example is I go to a school and, I'm going to get paid. And then I'm not going to get paid on the 5th. All of a sudden, they change it to the 10th. And then the 9th, they say, oh no, because of some tax reason, we need to pay you on the 15th. So you end up, they push it out a little further and, oh, we just can't. And da 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 da. But at that point, you're too afraid to say, well, fuck it, I'm gone. Fuck you, I'm gone. Because you're still kind of waiting for your money. And then when you get it, on the 15th, you go, well, okay, I've been paid. I'll just keep going, right? And then you pay the 15th. Now, let me tell you something. Within the Chinese labor market, Chinese factory owners all over this fucking country keep their workers at bay for as much as 2 months and 3 months salary. It's a very common phenomenon in Chinese factories to have 50 or 60 employees work for 2 or 3 years, and the entire time they're fucking owed, they're behind by 2 or 3 months salary, meaning they're still owed them, and the Chinese workers put up with that shit so that they're holding over their head, right, this 2 or 3 month loss, okay, a 2 or 3 month loss of wages, okay. So it's a way of bullying. It's just a way of keeping control of them, okay. And they try to, well, you try to use this with you, to the extent they're able. So what is the counterbalance to this? What's the counterbalance? The counterbalance is this. As it stands right now in the Chinese market, there are far more positions open than there are people ready to fill them. Okay? So they're fucking afraid of losing you. And so okay? They're afraid of you losing you. All right? So this is where if we didn't have that bargaining power, fucking Jesus, they'd rake us over the coals. And I'm surprised that foreign teachers treat them as nice as we do quite often. Okay, but these are just the facts. Okay, I'm gonna give some more information on this this is part one of part two, and I'm going to make part two right now. So there was another video where I promised a second segment, a two of, a part two of a series of two, etc. And I haven't gotten around to it, but this time I will. I'm going to turn this off and make part two.